What's going on? Welcome to the Creator Factor podcast, where we dive deep into the creator culture, entrepreneurship, and the strategies to help you strive as a business-minded content creator. I am your host that loves you the most, Ozeal, and today I am jazzed up to be chatting with a master, a storyteller. He's a filmmaker. He's a YouTube content creator and educator where he talks a lot about YouTube on his YouTube channel. He teaches you how to make YouTube affordable and accessible, sharing free tools, software, and secrets of SEO, which I'm really looking forward to talking about SEO as well with this young creator right here that we have who's been recognized actually as growing. This is really dope. Y'all check this out. He's responsible for growing Tubebuddy's YouTube channel from 6K to 500,000 subscribers as their director of video production and talent. He's here to drop some YouTube knowledge bombs on us and how you can improve your YouTube game. Ladies and gents, we got the man behind the mantra, if I can, you can. So I got to ask you, can we kick it?
Yes, we can.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. Andrewkan in the building. What's up, Andrew?
First of all, you were incredible at intros. I have to say that after listening a few times, I got a shout outs to my friend Rob Balasabas, who was also at Tubebuddy. But no, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I think that what we're going to talk about here is going to be very actionable, very important. And if you're listening, you're definitely going to want to listen to the next one, because I know that he's not just doing it here, he's doing it every interview. So I just want to shout out to you as well.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I received that. And shout out to you for knocking that out the building, man. I was like, I'm going to drop that on him. Let's see my boy and Andrew just knocked it out. Ready to go, y'all. Fired up. All right. So let's jump in. Andrew, you have a simple mantra, brother. As I mentioned, if I can, you can too. I love the play on words, by the way. I really like that. Talk to us a little bit about the story, man. What's the story behind this simple belief? And if there's like a moment in your career and your journey as a creator that kind of tested this belief and how you overcame that, break it down.
So there's the fun one I tell when the first time someone goes andrewkan, I'm like, ooh, I got to work on figuring out how to get that branding better. But the actual one, which kind of like comes from that, is when I was younger, my grandpa had like a simple mantra, which was, if a man made it, a man could fix it. And I liked that idea, but I didn't think it was inclusive. There are a lot of different creators out there that are not men. So I was like, look, people aren't getting my name. I've always agreed with this mantra, but I want it to be a little more open for anyone. And I'm like, look, it's right there in front of me. And we've actually had this conversation a little bit off air, where it's like, sometimes the very simple thing that is right there in front of you that you really love can help propel you. So for me, it was like that mantra, if a man made, a man can fix it, is basically, if I can, you can too, which is like what we are doing. If you're watching and wanting to get started, you can actually do this too, right? It is very plausible. There are more free tools than ever. There are more things that we can do than ever. So it really just came from a desire to inspire, which is what that quote did for me all those years ago. And I'm sure you understand this. If someone gets your name wrong once, you're like, what can I do to help you remember this?
I did the same thing, man. I remember like with Ozeal, it's actually, I don't think I've actually mentioned this, but it's actually Ozeal.
Wow.
Ever. So people were like, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Ozeal? I mean, people would chop it up. I'm like, you know what? Zeal. The word zeal. I'm like, zeal means passion.
Yeah.
Zeal. Boom. And I went with it. I adopted Ozeal and just changed the spelling. And that's how Ozeal was born. So I feel you, bro. I had to do the same thing. I had to tweak it a little bit just so people could make it, easier to pronounce. And now people don't have trouble announcing it. So I can relate, man. I can relate.
Well, when you do that too, it's funny. Your community is like, how do you not know how to say it? I'm like, hey, I remember some of you didn't
right,
know.
Exactly. Right. My man, you mentioned some, we were talking off air and you were sharing some resources and you mentioned there's some definitely free tools. And I think this is a great time to be a content creator because, and this is part of your mission, is making it accessible and sharing with creators how to create on a budget. And you share a lot of great content on your YouTube channel. If you can share with for our content creators watching and listening, man, what are kind of some free tools and software that you're digging into now that you believe that every content creator listening and watching should adopt? What are you using right
Easy.
now?
I mean, 3 tools that come to mind. Obviously, I'm a little biased, so I won't say Tubebuddy, even though that is a free tool. I feel that's too on the nose.
Yeah.
But YouTube has its own free keyword research feature that not a lot of people are aware of. It is built right into YouTube. It is under analytics. There's a tab called Research tab. It is from YouTube themselves. It's incredibly usable. And I see people all the time going, I don't know how to get started in SEO. It's free now from
Oh,
YouTube.
wow.
So highly recommend that. There's StreamYard, which is one of the easiest way to live stream podcasts. They do a lot for free trials. They do a lot for just the space in general. So if you're not considering StreamYard, absolutely do that. Then one of the ones I really love that gives you that value after you're done live streaming is called Opus Clip. Now, I preface this that it does use AI. I know there's some creators out there that are uncomfortable with AI. So I will give you this preface that it does use AI to do what it does. However, it takes that long form interview, that long form thing that you're doing as a creative, and breaks it down either into shorts, which are vertical videos, or with their newer feature, you can do long form captions for like normal 16:9 videos too. So it does a lot for free. So those are 3 tools that you can start using literally today to make creating easier than ever.
Did not know about that YouTube research feature. So
Yeah,
that's I'm gonna have to play with that.
they dropped it kind of like most YouTube drops are like, yeah, we put it out there, and it's like, can you tell us in any way that you did that?
I'm gonna have to check it out. That's a good one. And of course, Opus Clip. What's your hot take on AI, man? I know AI has been the hot thing. It's at every conference, at every creator corner. Everybody's AI, AI. Give us your hot
I
take, man. Is it a detriment? Is it something that's going to, kill the creator spirit and it's going to take our souls away from the creative part of what we do, or do you feel like it'll only enhance what we do as content creator?
I think it depends who's using it and for what.
Mm,
And I mean that as creatives tend to use it in creative ways, non-creatives tend to use it to eliminate like the creative part. So I think it depends who's using it and for what. I use it to take my creative, again, using Opus Clip and shrink it down, save me time, right? I come from a background using TubeBuddy. My whole take on like we were told it when TubeBuddy was young, oh, you're gonna steal jobs from creatives. Now people look back at it and it's like we've helped millions of creatives, right? I was told like, and many times in my career that X new thing is going to ruin the industry. AI is one of the only few where I actually believe it could, but I think it's up to us creators to decide what we like and what we don't with it. For me, I really love that when I know a creative is choosing to use it, not being forced to use it, that's where I support and understand it. I think AI is helpful, and I think the creative industry as a whole will be kind of broken down to people who understand it and people who don't. And I think
yeah,
as we've seen over time, the ones that do understand it are going to be able to maneuver with it and pivot with it. I'm going to say don't get left behind by it. You can understand something and not use it. I'd say just try to start understanding why do people like this? How could I use this? And why will I or will I not use it? That's my best advice when it comes to AI.
I love that. So it's not going to replace the personal creativity. It's not going to replace it. It's simply going to enhance and help us become more efficient as content creators. I use Opus Clip. I think it's an amazing tool. I know there's tons of tools. I feel like they're coming out every day, but I feel like it's definitely more of an assistant rather than a replacement, so to speak. So you said it perfectly well. I love the way you broke it down. Let's talk about the SEO, brother. Let's talk about SEO because this is something new to me. Obviously, we know SEO from a blogging perspective, but as it relates to YouTube content, my knowledge and a lot of content creators, I'm sure, really don't know how to leverage SEO and don't even think about SEO. Um, Share with us your best SEO practices and how you recommend for creators to leverage that to rank videos on YouTube. What's working in
Sure.
2024?
What's working in 2024 is remembering the fundamentals of SEO, which is who search engine optimization is what SEO is. If you're watching, you've never heard this term. You are optimizing for what human beings are searching for in that search engine. What I find when people lean into SEO is they almost forget the humanity behind that search. And with tools like YouTube's free research tool, you see what people are searching for. How to start a podcast for free is one of the easiest things that I see when it comes to podcasts. What's the humanity behind that? I want to go ahead and start something that's hard to do, but I don't know if I'm going to like it well enough to actually invest in it. So, is there a way I can do this for free? That is like the humanity. So when people are searching for things, all you're trying to do is appeal to their basic human question, curiosity, need. And I feel like when it comes to search engine optimization, we often think, I got to impress that algorithm. That algorithm doesn't understand that complexity. It doesn't understand, but the people who are searching and looking behind it absolutely do. They can immediately suss out, oh, this person actually cares about getting and helping me, or oh, this person is just trying to get me into their funnel, they're just trying to sell me something. We're very smart as a species on when someone's trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
So my biggest advice when it comes to search engine optimization is that what you're looking for is the conversations people are searching around, and how you as a creative can get in and answer that question in a different way. So I'm sure if you and I were both given the how do I start a podcast for free, we're going to approach this at different angles because that's who we are as creatives. So when it comes to SEO, yes, you need to see what they're searching for, but it's us as creatives to understand that this is the search, but this is what I can contribute to this conversation. Don't look at it just as I'm trying to game the system. How can I actually make an impact? And YouTube is very similar to that old school blogging, except it goes a step further. It looks at your title first because that's what you're telling YouTube the video is about. But how do you check if what we've titled a video, aka the first part of the search engine optimization, is actually about how to start a podcast for free? Well, YouTube looks and checks other places. YouTube checks all of these places and more. So if you're watching this and you're like, what do I need to focus on for search engine optimization? They focus on their title. They focus on the description. They take a look at your transcript because YouTube, it's funny because a lot of YouTube creators are like, I'll never use AI. But YouTube uses AI on every single YouTube video to give a transcript. So you're inadvertently using AI. Then they look at your tags, your hashtag. There's a lot more than that, but those are just the 5 I'd tell you to focus on. Those 5 things, what I'll see a creator do is they'll title a video, how to start a podcast for free.
Right.
Then the description is, you need to get started here for free. They never mention podcasting again. They lose that. What is that core focus of the title? They don't include it in the description. Then their tagging is like free. If you were to type in free right now, Ozeal, how long would it take you to find that video?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just based on free, right?
Right. Yeah.
There'll be a podcast for free. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's like we lose how tags are how people would search. The title should be how people would search, and you should describe it in a way you would search for it.
Gotcha. So not only what I'm hearing, Andrew, is the title is super important.
Yep.
Simplifying, right? Thinking of what the audience is searching for, typing, but also the description, which I feel like that's a common mistake that I know like a lot of creators will kind of half step over that. They'll just like, hey, we won't. And they're just kind of loading it up with promoting themselves. But what I'm hearing from you, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's important to invest in having these is the keyword like short, having really elaborate descriptions and using tags that are still aligned with the ultimate title and what the content is about. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, YouTube uses all of them together, plus what you say in the first 30 seconds of your video to make sure whatever you titled that video is actually being presented to a viewer. Because if you title this how to start a successful podcast for free and you never mention that ever in the video, YouTube's going to take a look and go, well, why did you title this? But you never actually talk about it in the video. They do that so that users don't have a bad experience. They're not clickbaited into watching videos.
I see. Okay. So that YouTube AI is smarter than you think, y'all. You got to make sure because they're listening.
They are.
What are so like you use obviously Tubebuddy. I know there's a free version. Is that something that you recommend to get started for content creators that are really trying to level up on YouTube, to use a tool like Tubebuddy to do research and figure out what people are searching for? Is that something that you advise, or is this something we can do on the back end on the YouTube search tool?
Again, very biased, but I think, TubeBuddy, I spent a lot of time there. What TubeBuddy helps you understand, and I explained this when I was at TubeBuddy, and I still think it's true. It's like any creator right now could go out in a field and cut down a tree with their hand. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not my best strategy, but these tools are like getting an axe, right? It's only
Mm,
an extension of what you can physically do. If you're really strong, you could maybe cut down that tree faster. If you're just picking up the axe for the first time, it's going to take you a little longer. It's just a tool, and it's how you use it and understand it. I
mhm.
think TubeBuddy is still usable. I think YouTube's own keyword research feature is very good because like what it will show you is gaps in the market, which as great as TubeBuddy is, that's not something it really can predict at the moment.
Oh,
But because of YouTube's own tools, it's one of those things
yeah.
that you can see it for free. And the free version of TubeBuddy, honestly, use them together. Use the free things that YouTube is telling you, and then use TubeBuddy to like go deeper. That's
Okay.
my best recommendation there.
Because I see a lot of creators, and even including myself, even recently, we'll get lazy and we're like, well, we're gonna create content that we feel that the market should listen to or find out about. And then come to find out there's crickets. And it's because we haven't done the due diligence to do the research to know what is the audience is searching for. And you talked about this, Andrews, right? Is the importance of really understanding your audience. And I know even when I do like coaching for my podcasting clients, I would say, the three acronyms I use is the BAM, right? The BAM method, which is, brand, audience, and then you monetize. And you do it in that order. So you got to make sure that you dial in the brand, but that audience component is something always that just people just forget about. And they just like, well, it's ego and it's what I want them to do. And I've been guilty of it, y'all. Listen, I've been guilty of like this. I think they're gonna like this, and then it's like, ooh, like maybe I should invest in research. Maybe I should get TubeBuddy or use these tools to know what people are looking for to create the content.
But I don't want you to lose sight of that. What I tell people is like, I want to create for me. And you absolutely should keep creating for you. Even in that search based videos, when you're looking at people, I recommend ratios, right? Because sometimes
Mhm,
you'll have an idea that may not be searched, but hey, you're answering exactly what people are feeling. So there has to be balance. YouTube
mhm.
calls this the hero, help, and hub method. Hub video is like a regular scheduled programmed video that may not be searched, but hey, I had this creative compelled, like I was compelled to make this, so I made this. Help is like, hey, how do I start a podcast?
Right.
Hey, I'm starting to, my podcast people want a membership. What do I do there? Right. So I say you should make for your audience. I try to do a 2 to 1 where it's like two I know the audience are really craving for, and one sometimes just for me. But if you're making that one for you, you've got to be realistic. If the views for the other two are higher, I took the risk in making the thing for me.
Gotcha. I love that. Have no expectations, but still kind of have that creative fulfillment to talk about what you want to talk about. I love that. I love that ratio, just keeping that balance. Um, then I completely go overboard with just making sure that you do all the content that people are searching for.
And
Yeah, go ahead, man.
no, my last one is just make sure it's also like on brand. Like I'm sure Ozeal is like out
Mm.
all of a sudden you're like on your podcast channel, yo, here's how you do ballet. I'm like, I'd be interested only because you've shown zero,
The
at least
creator
from
way, the
I
ballet, the
know.
creator way.
I would just imagine you're doing ballet with a podcast mic. I'm like, this is the most interesting podcast I've ever seen. I gotta tell you.
My subs may go up after that. Like, well, that's pretty cool. I've never seen this before. That's awesome. Storytelling, Andrew, is the heart of creating compelling content. And it's something that a lot of content creators struggle with. Obviously, you have a background in film, which I'm sure was instrumental in helping you craft these stories. Curious to know, man, like what's your process like in crafting stories and embedding that in your YouTube content? Are you doing that? Because I know a lot of your content is very instructional as well, but are there any tips for content creators to infuse more storytelling into their content to be able to create that compelling content that we all should be doing?
I think story, like people are like, I know I need to throw in storytelling, but like, what is a story, right?
Mm,
There are complex stories. There are stories that have been told as little as 6 words, right? So a story in my head is whether you're making this instructional tutorial, like there's Joseph Campbell. He has the idea of a hero with 100 faces. And it's basically
mm,
this, that every video we make is going to reach someone in their journey. Is the story about me or is the story about them, the audience, right? a tutorial, a lot of people want to be Luke Skywalker. I'm going in Star Wars terms. If you're
I
unaware,
love
Luke
it. Let's
Skywalker is
go.
the main
I
protagonist.
I got a little Yoda right there, man.
I
Right there behind
noticed.
me. I see it.
So I like depending. I did notice, but depending, right? Like we understand that Luke is our main character, but a lot of times we all think we're Luke. Sometimes in someone's story, you're the Obi-Wan. In a tutorial, you're more likely going to be Yoda. You're more likely the Obi-Wan than the Luke. You're reaching out to the Luke. Doesn't mean your story and what you know is less valuable. It's just an expectation setter, right? If you feel like you want to be more Luke, then there are ways you can make content like Luke. But you have to understand that storytelling at the core is conflict, resolution, next steps, right? No story is good without a conflict. No story is good without resolution, unless it is, arguably a multi-part series, but then that's a little bit different. And then you're on like 9 parts, 12 movies, you're Star Wars, you got 50 years of canon. I'm just having a little too much fun on this analogy. But the point is, no matter where
The
you
force is
are,
strong in you, Andrew.
yes, it is. But my main thing is that wherever you are in your story journey, it's important to remember that storytelling can be as simple as, Ozeal needed a podcast guest. I'm his podcast guest. Together, we're telling you our stories. That's a complete story. It's not going to win an Oscar, perhaps, but like a lot of people forget in a video, like if I'm struggling to learn how to get better audio, that journey of me learning how I improve my audio is both helpful for the audience, helpful for myself, and can have a resolution. It doesn't have to be this complex story. People they want Citizen Kane. Not every story needs to be Citizen Kane. Sometimes a simple story. Like I often say, The Big Lebowski is just about them at first trying to get a rug. That's
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
story is, and a
Yeah.
lot of stuff unfolds. Like sometimes the simplest setup gives the best results.
You've earned, recognition in the YouTube industry, man. I'm curious to know on a personal level, bro. Like what's been like your biggest, like proudest, like accomplishment? What has that taught you as a content creator? What are you proud of, man?
I mean, there's a lot to be proud of. Personally, I made a film a few years ago. It was about my mom who passed when I was very young, and she taught me that everyone has a story to tell, that everyone is someone's legacy.
Mm,
And by being a legacy, like, your fundamental core is here, right? Listen, learn, connect. Like that's what that really
yeah,
inspired me to do.
yeah.
And so what I'm most proud of is like honestly a lot of my work at Tubebuddy, a lot of the work that I'm doing now in terms of helping creators more one-on-one. Like when I was at Tubebuddy, like a lot of people don't know this, but it was 4 founders and then me. I was one of their first ever, employees. So a lot of like the tools like were their ideas that I helped shape, and like knowing that I've helped a million creators and that there's still millions of creators every day starting at different points. That's really what keeps me going. What I'm probably the most proud of is because when I was a young creative who wanted to do this, there weren't a lot. I was a young Luke, right? And like there weren't a lot of resources for me at the time. There were some, and like there are people who were then creating. Like I found YouTube in 2006, so I've been on this platform in different ways and capacities since 2006. So for me, just seeing how the platform has evolved and knowing that I played even a small part in it has made me incredibly proud and humble, and I hope to continue to help creators every day.
What is it about, aside from the teaching, and you came from like a film background? Have you always had that kind of that teaching DNA? Is that something that's always, or has that evolved as your journey through YouTube? Like I'm curious to know, like, where did that teaching come from?
Uh, Partly by force, and I mean that lovingly. When I started TubeBuddy, I was behind the camera. I was not in front
Mhm.
of it. I was not comfortable at the time. Like I had channels where I was faceless because I'm like, no one wants to, see, hear me. They just want to see what I capture. But it was when I was voluntold, which is when you were told to do something, but you were volunteered for it. So voluntold to get
I
out
love.
there and teach, because like I knew what to do. I just wasn't saying it in front of camera. And I feel like a lot of times that's every creator. You know what you know, but there's this like paralyzing fear. Like
Yeah.
I am coming on 9 years of being in front of camera now. When I started was a completely different Andrew. But the problem is, and like what compels me to teach is that journey, is showing people like, hey, if you look at 2015 Andrew to now, huge leaps. And that's what inspires me to teach is I love progress. I love stories. And your own progression is a story. So many times people discount that because they're like, oh, it's just part of no, part of the process is part of your story.
And part of personal development, I always have I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I was sharing with him how, some of the things that a lot of people don't talk about, the the skill sets and the underlying um, things that you learn as a podcaster early on. Podcasting, and even I'm sure you can relate to this, even as you're sharing, being in front of the camera, how that helps cultivate confidence within yourself. It helps you become a better communicator. These are things, the benefits that people overlook when it comes to content creation. So what I'm hearing you say is like, hey, this is part of your story. And also I would like to add that this is also part of our personal development. A lot of creators struggle with insecurity and lack of self-confidence and not feeling like we're showing up authentically. And these are all things that we struggle with. But by putting in the reps, by getting in front of the camera, by getting behind the microphone, we start building our confidence where we can show up and then become better teachers to help others. And I think that's just a beautiful flow of the journey of a creator that a lot of people don't talk about. So I'm glad that you touched on that, man.
Yeah. And like your journey is just as beautiful. And like when you were sharing just that bit about your name, right? Excuse me. There are people in the audience who want more of that, right? And like
Mhm.
there are times where we are afraid because like, oh, who would need this? You and I just related on something that's incredibly human. I'm sure there are other people out there because I've actually had people ask me, "Hey, I'm thinking about changing my name. People don't get it right. What would you recommend?" And that's not something that was ever searched, going back to what we talked about earlier. But
Right.
it's really needed because there are people who feel that same thing, but
Yeah.
no one talks about it. So that's the one where I would say if I was you, I'd make it for you.
I love that, man. That's a great tie-in. I love that. Podcasting, Andrew. I'm curious, man, as an OG podcaster and you being a YouTuber for many years, thoughts, man. What are your thoughts on podcasting now playing in the YouTube sandbox? And now YouTube saying, hey, we're going to give you the nod and give you podcasters a chance to be discovered on YouTube. What's your hot take and where do you see it going?
What happened to the iPod, man? That's the first part of podcasting. That's my hottest take.
That's right.
Why? Where's the iPod? No, I'm
What
just kidding.
happened?
Could you could you imagine? That's my hot take. Bring back the
Like a
no.
way back, iPod. That's gonna be the title. Bring back the iPod.
No, that's not my. You know why we're there? We'll bring back MySpace. No, what I think about podcasts in YouTube is I think it's a natural evolution. I think a lot of people, have vodcast, aka video podcast, if that's what you
Mm,
call them. And
hmm.
so I think that what YouTube has realized there are so many podcast people on our platform. We should actually start keeping them in mind and building for them. And I think if you are looking to get into podcasting, the fact that more platforms are taking it serious is your sign to take it serious too. I love that it's here because it's just another place. Like YouTube's not asking you to be only on YouTube. You can have it multiple different locations. I think it's just a better chance for, creators of any type, whether you are a podcaster, whether you are a live streamer, to get into a platform which I personally love, which is podcasting. I think it's a great thing. I think that the more visibility that podcasters get, the better it is because what you guys do is incredible. You are what I call modern radio shows. And I think that I've listened to podcast creators more than even some YouTubers because, like, just the platform itself just gravitates towards it. I think it's incredible.
I love it. So you see this obviously growing and evolving? Because I know YouTube, they were at Podcast Movement recently, and they were saying how they're going to add new RSS feeds and a lot more features with podcasting. And I'm seeing now like this merging of both worlds, right? You see YouTubers wanting to be podcasters now, and podcasters wanting to be YouTubers. And I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I mean, I feel like there's no room to be a purist now. That's why I've been in the space for quite some time. But at the end of the day, excuse me, I am a content creator first and foremost, right? And I think that's something that we're seeing a lot more content creators adopt is embracing video and of course taking advantage of what YouTube is providing, which is a platform to be discovered and to be able to reach a different audience. I love where it's going.
No, 100%. I think you take the power of search and discovery from YouTube, put it to podcasts. You basically have a built-in Google because YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world. You basically have people looking for anything possible, and there's easily a podcast answer.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on short form content, man? I've been hearing a lot back and forth of like whether or not now with Opus Clips, I feel like there are people that are just going heavy on volume and they're not getting the traction that they thought they would on YouTube. They're just amping it up, feeding the monster, thinking that they're going to give them some love, and it's like crickets. Curious to know, like, what's the strategy with creating short form content? What's working? What's not? What are some of the best practices in 2024 and beyond?
Sure. So, like, similarly, when it comes to any content type, I think shorts are here to stay. I think that a lot of times, people are like, "Oh, I wish we could go back to a time without shorts." I think shorts makes us as a creator think differently. It's made me change how I think of my own videos, in my long form videos. It's like, am I drawing out or am I getting to my main point? Like a lot of times as creators, we want to make sure like we give answers and like we have like side things and this is why this and this and this happened. But the reality of the situation is what shorts help us do is focus on what's important, the content. A lot
Mm,
of times people put out in volumes a lot of content. The only issue with that is how are you sure every single thing is valuable to a viewer? Shorts is a broad feed. There are billions, and I say billion with a B, of shorts views a day. What piece are you putting out that is your best could connect with someone in less than 60 seconds? It's one of those things where shorts are here to stay. They're very valuable, but you have to be even more on top of your game because you've got to be able to compel someone in less than 60 seconds. It's the ultimate elevator pitch.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to get your script down tight. I'm noticing even with shorts, excuse me, I feel like one question, one answer, right? Kind of get in and get out. And I feel like that's becoming a lot more. That's been helping me out versus just a random video. So, and also some trending stuff, right? Just really understanding like the trends and what's happening. Those I feel like that are working really well with the short form content. Um, I always like to close out the show asking all of our guests this last question, that if there is one creator factor, Andrew, just one, uno, that every creator should learn and master, what would that be?
Community. I think that when you understand a community, like one thing people don't understand is what we're really doing is we're building relationships. Our community is one of the most important relationships you're ever going to have, no matter the platform, no matter the content type, no matter what. Master understanding and being there for your community. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm building a community." I'm like, "Oh, what are you doing for them?" And it's crickets. It is surprisingly amount of crickets. They're like, "Well, I'm making the videos." I'm like, "That's one step." A community is like any relationship. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes care. You need not only to have a YouTube, but a place where they can talk outside of it. For myself, it's a Discord. For a lot of people, it's a newsletter. Some it's memberships. And I think that if you are looking for a factor that can make all the difference, it's understanding community. When we were building TubeBuddy, we built not only the tool, but the community together because
Mm,
we understood that if we want people to actually go out there and use this, we need people to believe in it. We need people to talk about this. And the best way to do that was at the time building our forums, eventually building a Discord, building a YouTube channel, building a Facebook page, all free to set up, but it just showed, hey, you show up, we show up. What you say matters to us and you'll see it. If you're watching this podcast, wherever you're watching it, you watching are a part of that community. It is so important that not only Ozeal, but myself are here for you, right? And that we are answering any questions that you have. That's the thing. You need to have that level of intentionality as a creator all the time. That's a huge creator factor. Building your community and not only building it, but showing up every day for it.
community is currency, it's luxury, it is the essence of everything that we do as businesses, as content creators. Andrew, you just, again, man, you knocked it out the park in the beginning. And I feel like you just hit another one out the park, man. I love it, brother. Well, listen, man. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. I want you to check out Andrew's YouTube channel, which I'm going to make sure that we link it up in the show notes and description. And he has a Discord. He has an amazing community, so we'll make sure we get all that linked up. My man, it's been a pleasure. And again, once again, shout out to our boy Rob Elisabas, the ultimate. What do we call him? The ultimate connector.
We do, we do. He knows everyone. I swear, like Rob. There's not a person Rob doesn't know, and if he doesn't know them, give it a day.
Yeah. We love you, Rob. We love you.
Shout outs, Rob.
All right, Andrew, thank you so much for this conversation, man. I look forward to following your journey, man, everything that you do as a content creator. You're awesome,
You
brother.
as well. Take care.
May the force be with you.
And also with you.
Peace.